Welcome to the Chai Podcast. Grab your kettle pots and get ready for some sizzling hot tea coming you straight kutoka jikoni. The things that you like, the bestest, the smartest, and the streets. Hello, good evening. My name is Yana Buki Mose. It's at the top of the hour, 11:28 p.m. So I'm joined with my friend here, the guest of today, Kennedy Nyoki. And in this particular episode, we'll explore the rich tapestry of human sexuality and the diverse experiences within the LGBTQ plus community.
Very controversial.
LGBTQ plus community. So today we are diving into what it means to be part of the LGBTQ plus spectrum, the challenges and trumps individuals face, and the importance of acceptance and understanding in our society. Join me as I sit down with my good friend Kennedy to discuss their journey, insights, and the evolving landscape of sexuality today. So the journey, what I mean here is not like I'm branding him as a as a LGBTQ member plus, but the journey and the experiences, because first you will have to clarify whether he's straight or part of the community. Of course, you need to first clarify things up, yeah? So, and if you're straight, you can tell us your journey, and have you experienced any encounters with members of that community? So I think, and point to note, we are not discriminating anyone, or we are not inciting violence or hate. This is purely a conversation, and I believe on the teapod podcast we really appreciate inclusivity of all people, and we need to hold them in high regard, basically because they're human beings. So Kennedy, I think we'll start with an introduction about yourself. Kindly, we'll just try to make it very brief. I know you're a very, very busy man. You've had a quite tight schedule today, and the main reason I want to tell our listeners right now, is that this podcast was supposed to happen early morning on Saturday, but because our guest was very busy, we decided to reschedule it to 11:30, top of the hour at night, because so that we can squeeze the timeline. So Kennedy, kindly, as we start our conversation, kindly introduce yourself.
Good evening, listeners. As you've heard from the all-knowing, all-wise Yana Buki, I'm Kennedy Nyoki. Many people call me Nyoki because it's a very rare name. It's venye zinatokea kwa ID ni Nyoki Edward Kennedy. That's how it appears on my ID. I'm a friend to Yana Buki and also to Kennedy Wangari. Very close. We learn from each other a lot, and being part of the Tea podcast is it's really an honor. Being able to be heard out there is really a privilege, and how you speak your mind, delving into various topics like the one that we are about to delve into right now. Very controversial, but as he said, hakuna mtu tuna judge ama just ndio, like it's your sexuality, so you're the one who has to be cautious and also mindful of what you really take your sexuality to be. Sexuality is a choice at the end of the day, right? Yeah. So let me hand the mic back to my counterpart here.
Yeah, so join me as I sit down with Kennedy, who identifies as a straight, to discuss their perspective on this vital topic. So Kennedy, are you gay? Are you gay? And then can you kindly share with the listeners about your personal understanding about this topic of LGBTQ topic? Like, I want you to explain to us, how do you understand on a personal perspective?
Question 1. Bana me, I'm straight. It's a choice for me to be straight, yeah. All in all, what I understand about the above topic, I feel like the way I understand gayism is being attracted to persons of the same sex, right? And I don't really judge people based on their sexuality. I feel like being straight, being heterosexual, being bisexual, cutting across all terms, it's a choice at the end of the day. You choose who you love and choose what suits you, or rather you choose your own understanding of what sexuality is and how attraction is. At the end of the day, as long as you're happy with yourself and you feel like you're making the right decision as per your intellect, I feel like that's all on you. But how society terms the gay community, or rather the LGBTQ community, they should be treated as equal, as they're just human beings as us. Yeah, they have their own rights. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So Ken, I would like to understand, at the beginning, when you heard about the rise of LGBTQ, especially from the Western world into our own context of African culture, where we are in Kenya. So have your views changed or evolved over time, or they're just there? Do you consider yourself very conservative to the African culture, as in the hetero, do we call it the heterosexual kind of sexual orientation, or the homo? Do you see it as something that can be embraced in our culture? Especially, do you have friends who are part of the community, or have you ever been approached by a particular individual, because you're a male right now? Do you identify as a male first and foremost? Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know. So have you ever been approached by someone, or do you have friends who are part of the community? So I'd like for you to link the question up about it being accepted in our context, and do you have friends who are part of the community?
I'll start with question 2, because it's quite simple to answer it right now. Do I have friends? Yes, I do. And then but mostly the friends that I have majority of them are female, and I'll delve into that later. I know there's a question that will come ukombele concerning how I've answered this, and the first one, when I get into the first one, the question was if I feel like we can have a societal acceptance to the LGBTQ community. When I was growing up, I was taught that being gay is kind of satanic, and we don't view the gay people as people. We don't treat them like human beings. That's how I grew up knowing that, yeah. But over time, as I've grown and being exposed to the world, because I've spent the better part of my life in Nairobi, and the information that I was consuming by that time, mi unajua mi nilizaliwa tu, I'm a Gen Z, so like the era that I've grown in, consuming the internet and the notion that is put out there, I've come to be enlightened that they're human beings too, right? And their sexuality is their own cause. It's their own choice to be a homosexual, a lesbian, call it whatever. And I've come to learn that these are people too. They have wants, they have needs. They cannot be exempted to certain norms in a certain country, right? We have to treat them equally, because most of the people who are termed themselves as gay, lesbian, they're human too, and they have to enjoy the same rights as the straight man and the straight lady out there. So I feel like as a society, as a global community, as a local community, we should embrace them, because it's changing times and you have to accept people the way they are. You just can't what's the term? You're not supposed to like do away with those people. They need our help, and they need also our attention, right? Yeah, because they really face a lot mentally, isolation and everything. So I feel like we should embrace them in our society, right? And we should love them as our own.
So yeah, thank you. That's a very interesting insights. How we can be supportive as of course, if you have a friend, family in the community. So I think you've elaborated very well. So in terms of the challenges in awareness, yeah, because it's a fact, they live amongst us, our society, and we cannot there can't be like radical policies to exterminate them, like, sorry for that very radical term, because they live amongst us, and you cannot you cannot introduce reverse therapy, because they have clearly chose that path. So in terms of the challenges, so what challenges do you think the community, individuals face in the society, in our context, and you as a straight ally of the LGBTQ, the third party member, how can we help address these challenges? What are the challenges? And you as a straight, we as straight allies, how can we address this? Like just one challenge, and then how we can address it.
I feel like the only challenge, one should I be constrained to one, but anyway, I'll do my best in answering that. The challenge that these members of the LGBTQ community really face, the challenge that they face, one, and it is evidently clear, and that is some of them have there's mental they face a lot of mental health issues. And if I just give a high level explanation to that, is basically, and it is straightforward, isolation. That's one. These guys are being isolated and viewed as not humane, not human. They're lonely.
They need partners.
So being isolated, and someone just comes out and then I say, me, I'm just attracted to men. I'm a guy, and I say I'm attracted to men. If I'm a lady, I'm attracted to this and ladies. Yeah. So the isolation, being not viewed as human beings, or being termed as their actions as humane, or some of the the things that they champion for as inhumane leads to a lot of mental health issues, because suicidal thoughts, they get into drugs, alcohol, and everything, another one, I think I just covered the whole thing here. Okay. How, as a straight ally, you can address these challenges?
Well, with reservation that you may protect yourself, not to engage or to cross the line.
How we can? I'd say we should.
The problem is isolation, and the problem is,
the problem is mental health.
The problem is mental health,
and the mental health is caused by isolation.
And then the isolation, because the sexual orientation is based on they are attracted to the same gender, and in this context, maybe you have a friend who's a male and is gay, and the isolation comes from maybe probability is 90%. He wants love, he wants love, that kind of love, he doesn't just want the superficial friendship, he wants deep love. So how will you address it as a straight person? You understand? Because at the same time you want to save this man's life. How can you because jamaa anataka kukulwa na bado you care about your friend, anataka kukula bwana. Yes, a friend, I care about this, like jamaa anataka kunikula. Elaborate.
Oh my God.
How can you draw a line? What's the thin line here? Like you make sure you make sure first the friend feels, he's not alone. At the same time, we need some voice here. Wow.
Oh my God.
Aya, mambo jibu buna, because that's the reality of life bwana. People watu wako na hormones huku. Jibu.
What? Okay. Mimi, I'll answer as per the challenge that I give. In order to address, as a straight ally, I'd really advocate for them. I'd really champion for reconsideration of these people as members of our community, the larger community and the global community. And I feel like they should be given attention. Because as I said earlier, they face as well isolation, leading to mental health issues. Okay? So may I champion for them not to be neglected, because they are human beings. They are created. Blood flows in them. Si ati ni mafuta inaingia causes to their veins. Right?
Of course.
These people have feelings.
Of course.
And the isolation being viewed, because the day and age that we are living in, we see a lot.
No, of course.
Right?
Of course.
And these people are part of us, and they're human beings.
Yeah.
And they have issues that they really, mtu hawezi kaa tu, like you can't talk or air out what the problem. Alafu you just walk in, unasikia boys kumbe alijinyonga. You know how sad that is.
Of course. Of course.
And these people really they need our help as well to talk about what is this that they are going through. Because you just can't put out certain norms that really don't favor them. Yes, saa zingine inaweza kosa kuwa 50-50, but we should really consider them as part of us. Tusione kama ni outcasts. In our day and era, those people are not outcasts, they are human beings. Yeah, that's how the best way I can really answer that.
Okay.
We should really give them attention.
Attention.
Yeah.
So as much as we give them attention, yeah. So I just want to understand your perspective here. Do you support LGBTQ practices in Kenya or in Africa? Should we tolerate, or when we talk about mainstreaming, some of these activities, in terms of representation in media? So do you think representation in media is important for the LGBTQ plus community? And should we encourage shows, books, figures to shape the perspective on LGBTQ community? Should we mainstream this particular agenda? I don't like to call it agenda, or this sexual orientation culture for the merit of these minority groups, keeping in mind we have cultures that have been that have been inculturated to the younger generation. We have religion, we have Islam, we have Christianity, and we have traditions and taboos. So I want to know your standing. What do you mean when we say that we should accommodate them, but at the same time, how should we protect our sanctity as an African culture? Kennedy.
That's a very good question. Giving my honest opinion of if for the LGBTQ community. As I mentioned earlier, how I was brought up. I'm a staunch Christian, yeah. And how I was brought up, gayism or lesbianism or whatever, is not right? But if you ask me in this day and age and era, if I advocate for that, my answer is no. Right? No, I don't advocate for the LGBTQ, like lesbianism or the acts in general. Let me just sum it up in that way. Yeah. And most of my answer comes from how I've been brought up, as per my religious background. I don't term it as sin at times, but as I said, as I've matured into an adult, I've really gotten to view them as part of us, because they're just humans too. And even as a humanitarian, as a diplomat, even having some sort of legal background, we have to protect them. Now, the other question that you asked me was on how we can embrace them in our
Can you, like, should we incorporate their cultures
into our own?
Yeah.
Into our own.
Shape it.
Now,
should we mainstream it? Like Netflix, like in key topics or in the curriculum. You find in some countries they want to mainstream the significance of LGBTQ community, and will it be of a threat to younger generation and a threat to how we have been living our lives? So when we mainstream, like we put the traits of the culture of LGBTQ into the curriculum of education. Like there has to be a representation in film, in entertainment. You see, like it's a radical change. And do you think we are ready as Africans? Do you support it, or
are we ready as Africans?
Are we ready as Africans?
No,
exactly.
We're not.
In a global perspective.
For the global perspective and the Western world, I feel like for them, they are ready. Because they're already embracing that culture. But you see, for us as Africans, we are not yet ready. We are not yet ready. Because even the African, even the norms that we've all grown up to learn and vitu pia tumepitia as well. Looking even our forefathers, they termed it as satanic, right? So like having that shift, ideological shift of embracing the LGBTQ community or having it mainstreamed into our media, having books. For Africa, I feel like we are not yet there.
Not yet there. Yeah.
Because as I said, Africa or even Kenya, Africa too in general, yeah, we are experiencing neocolonialism. The certain ideologies are trying to be instilled in us. And sometimes they really don't work for us, but we still push for them. So like the key factor of LGBTQ being mainstreamed into our media, having books, or being entitled to certain rights to movies, having representation. Now, for the having LGBTQ representation in movies, in some way, I think it should be there in order to have that balance. So that, as I said, they are not supposed to be left out. These are some of the things that they championed for in the streets. They wanaendanga kurun to kwa streets, and mark you, they have very powerful representation whenever it comes to championing for the human. As those guys are so vocal. But Africa is not really ready to champion the ideology. There's also some reluctancy in promoting the LGBTQ brand.
Yeah.
I don't know kama you've noticed. Even in, let's take for example, like big filmmakers in places like South Africa, it's hard for them to like incorporate
homosexuality.
Yes, they have, but at times inakuwa ngumu manze kui mainstream and I say that because we are because it's hard. Because the ideology imesha kuwa instilled in Africans, but the problem is there's some reluctance to mainstream it to the media, having certain talks. Yeah. And also even incorporating some teachings to the to the curriculum, italeta a lot of controversy. For those who have been following, even Donald Trump is not for it. He says you just can't teach some issues in the classroom. So for the Western community, the Western side, I feel for them they're already embracing them like 100%, because these people go to the streets and fanya hiyo ujinga hapa Kenya, tapatana na buki hapo kwa kona atakupiga bari. Unaona? Yeah, cause
okay, for me Star of Finya, I really love you guys. Yeah, so
it was just an example. It was an honest example. Don't take it the wrong way. Abuki is a good guy. It was just because the African traditions really didn't champion that for us, and it's not. I can't call it open-mindedness to embrace or welcome these ideologies to us, but it's a choice. I feel like how Africans we've grown up, we are still not ready to have them.
Of course.
Yeah.
For me, on my perspective, I think only time will tell. Only time will tell. And culture, for a culture to be a culture, one of the things, culture, these are practices.
It's a practice
that have been embedded in a particular society. So you don't expect that this particular sphere or phenomena of LGBTQ community to be incorporated or to be part of the society that has been advocating for family values, family, father, mother, like heterosexual relationships, and the main objective in the context of family is procreation. Okay. So when you bring this different kind of concept into this new society, of course you'll get, change is prone to a lot of opposition. So I think it's high time to have a conversation about it, and that's the reason why on teapod we're discussing, so that you can really understand, is it right, is it the truth, is it like is it the reality that we should embrace? And I think that's how culture comes in. Human beings, we are slow beings in terms of accepting things to be part of us. So it's a process, but at the end of the day, we should understand and contextualize ourselves as human beings. There's no objective truth. It's clearly subjective, but the ground basis is we should respect ourselves as human beings. We have human rights, and someone associating, that's my opinion, if I identify myself as gay, it doesn't give the government the right to deny me the right to access to the hospital, access to and also me I'm using it as an example. Me as a gay, it doesn't give me the right to infringe into the freedom or the personal rights of my neighbor, by violating them sexually. I need to there needs to be a respect, within our relationships in that context of the nini. Exactly. So yeah, you've told me you have friends who are in that community. So what are the defining moments or the learning experience that you've gotten to grasp about the LGBTQ plus community? What are the issues that have stood out to you in your learning? You can, it's a casual conversation here, so you can speak in Swahili ama anything. So what are the issues that you think they stand out? Sema, exactly. Sema tu ama udaku yote.
Okay, yes, I do have friends, and I'd like to pinpoint some of these members of the LGBTQ community. I'd categorize it in 3 reasons as to why you might find they are the way they are. I'll talk more so on the gayism, and I'll put it in the lesbianism side. Yeah. For men, it might be akutaka kufika hapo cause there's a certain trauma alipitia when they were growing up that ilimforce to akajipata he's that way. He's attracted to the male gender. And largely I blame it on some of the evil relatives that we have, the uncles and all that. Si ati nasema ni wabaya, but there's some who are really some of them have a role to play. Yeah. Secondly is a societal implications, or rather the mainstream media. I feel like inakwanga tu peer pressure, and then they just decide, me, I just love men. So it's societal pressure, peer pressure nyingi. It really leads to them being in that way. And lastly, it's bad experiences with maybe sasa the opposite sex. Maybe ulikuwa na mdem and like you really didn't like a certain experience, ama there's a way you view women that makes you like cross the other side and you just say, me, I just love men. That's on the male side, yeah. But when it comes to the female side, one, it's the traumas that they go through when they were young that made them change how they view their sexuality, or rape, molestation really changes that, right? Second is societal pressure. This is, I'm not being as I said, these topics will be so controversial at times because of the views that we normally give as the teapod podcast. This societal pressure more so for women, I feel like since that you feel like it's cool, you just decide ata mi napenda madem. You just can't do that. You just can't do that. So societal pressure, and I said there's molestation, that can traumas that you faced in the past that really enables you to change. I've said it's societal pressure, and also I can say for another reason, girl child is This I've heard a lot, as per the conversations I've had with some of the people who are gay in on the ladies' side. Wananiambianga tu they just don't like men, or rather it's experiences whenever they dated a guy. Yeah, simple.
Sawa. So I think we are concluding in the final phase of this conversation. So I would like to ask you this question, but as we conclude, so I want you to answer like you state the answer. Don't explain. Sawa. Just state, don't explain. What do you think is the key? Is a key instrument, a key niche to having an open and honest conversation about sexuality? What do you think is the key? So that when we are engaging in any conversation, we can have people expressing themselves fully of who they are as a person and where do they stand. So like you can mention 3 or 4. Yeah,
that's a hard question, a very hard question. What is a key instrument?
Yeah, what's the key to having an open and honest conversation
in order to understand oneself
in any sphere?
Yeah,
sphere, from not just within homosexuality,
yeah,
but in politics.
The key instrument is being able to understand each and everyone's ideologies. As I said, each and everyone is equal. We have the human rights that have to be followed to the letter.
Yeah.
Me being straight, being gay, in any political ideology, each and every human being, regardless of your class, sexuality, or anything, you're entitled to vie for any seat that you want. More so on the political side, everyone has to be, as long as you meet the qualifications. Bona usiran. Even on the freedom of speech, having a political stand, you should not, however controversial your stand is, your sexuality is not supposed to be used against you. Yeah, so like the reason that the key instrument is just to get to understand each and every person based on their sexuality, their political stance, their background or ethnicity. It's just to understand each other and being able to have that some sort of equality in terms of the talks that we have out there and how they impact us as a society.
How can you utilize the policy and legal instrument to enhance openness and encourage, open conversations
based
about
on sexuality? It's just straightforward, Abuki. For the legal norms that we can use, or the legal powers that we can use, or even rather the policies that have to be set. For the policies should be set based on equality. As I said, these people are human beings like us. They see it in mafuta in a gush or coursing through the vein, it's blood. These people have to enjoy the rights that we have. You can't tell me that since I come out as gay, this is just an example, you just twist some policies. You're not giving the person justice. And even professionals in the legal doctrine should understand that these people have to enjoy their rights. If there is violations, regardless of their sexual status or anything, these people are supposed to enjoy the legal. They have the right to have the legal what do we call this? The legal arm also on their side. Si ati sababu ati maybe a guy who terms him or herself gay or lesbian, ati sasa ati the law has to be twisted in favor of the straight person. Ati nilimuibia cause he's a lesbian or gay. No, these people have to have equality, and the policy, people who sit at the policy implementation processes and the doctrines, or the sectors, and people who are in the legal practitioner should understand that these people have to have equal rights. Because if we don't have equal rights, we'll be having protests each and every time, claiming that you don't view, because they'll say you don't view us as human beings, you also have ones, you know. Yeah, that's my honest opinion.
Okay, perfect. That's a good one. As we conclude now, everything that comes must go. Everything must come that comes. We see how it's feasible in the future. It's long running, its longevity. So, do you think LGBTQ is here to stay? Is it the new norm? And how do you see the future of LGBTQ rights and the visibility of it evolving in the long run in the context of Kenya as a country and the larger prospect in Africa in general? Of course, we have some of the countries starting to legalize LGBTQ. South Africa being one of it. Clearly, we can see on how they relate the clubs, the films, the government in itself, the ministers being appointed. Some are, from the LGBTQ community, of course. So it's one of the liberal countries. I don't know if Nigeria, some parts, the northern part, which is more of no, the northern part is very strictly Islam, but the southern is more liberal. It's strictly Islam, so it's more diverse, but it has been zoned in regions that have been accepted, others not fully accepted. In Kenya, it's a secular country, so there's a lot of tolerance to it, because we don't find so much cases of violence against. It's minimal, but it's still a case. Yeah, so Central Africa, we can't hear some of these cases because they're not being mainstreamed. But for sure, I know they're facing a lot, like Uganda. Recently, we've been having cases of them like criminalizing LGBTQ as as a criminal offense. There's some countries going, full knuckles on it, using the legal instruments to suppress it. So, with all these limitations, with all these, fight backs with the government, with regimes, with societies, with the people, with the culture, do you see it being, what can I say?
A long term.
Do you see it sticking within our society as Africa?
The first question you asked me, it's a yes or no question. Is it, you asked me if it's going to be like there, is it infinite? I'd say no. And it's a no for me. I don't. With time it will. With time. But at the same time, if you think about it, you'd say yes, you think it will be there for a long time. But for me, I think no.
Why? Will people start? What are the factors?
I think the way our... Hold on. Now come to thinking about it, I have to change that one.
Because you remember the Western influence.
Yes.
The media.
Is it going to be...
The young generation embracing it
more than even the
older generation. So, for me, I think it's the long run. It's here with us.
It's here. Oh, yes. Now come to think about it. Yes, it will be infinite.
Remember, religion is losing grip.
Yeah.
in this young generation.
Very true.
And it's quite alarming.
Very.
It's quite alarming, and
Very alarming.
and me as a person, I cannot. The high probability, of me having gay friends in the next 10 years will be very. And when I go to some of these international organizations, infrastructures, you find, they have already adjusted the washrooms, general inclusivity.
God.
I don't want to mention the institution, but
don't
exactly. So you find it's slowly being, institutionalized in infrastructure. The influence of Western world into our, their donors heavily funding information, these Netflix giant companies with the growing multilateralism in our global interaction, and also the growing influence of media and communication. I think it's in the long run. It's here with us.
Yes, I have to change. Come to think about it, I just thought about it in a split second, and I say, is it infinite? Yes. Reason being, as we are evolving and as generations come by, if it was embraced by the millennials and the Gen Zs are doing it even more compared to the millennials, even the generation alphas, come to various generations that will come through, it will evolve, and it's going to get worse and worse. And so I feel like it's there. Come to think about it, it is infinite, and it is there with us in the long run. Yeah, that's how I'd say, because it's something that is still there with us. Yeah.
So Ken, what message would you like to share with the listeners about supporting LGBTQ plus communities? Of course, you've clearly placed your limitation on how you support them. Basically, by them being human beings, they have human rights. So how do we? Because clearly, as you have explained, case studies in some parts of South Africa, here in Kenya, Congo, Nigeria, Morocco, all these Arab countries, there's some instances where they're being, exterminated, killed, abused, violence, so much violence on their end. So I want to hear your perspective. What message would you like to give, to the listeners about this particular topic?
My honest advice or my honest opinion is, as we conclude, is I don't support the LGBTQ community. That's one.
Good to know.
Yeah, I've highly stated that, but I treat them equally. Mark you, these are human beings. Si ati walicreatiwa sijui na nani. It's the same God that we know, or your religious deity that you believe in. Because we are told to love each other as you love yourself, right? So like, we give them the rights that they need. We hear them out. We help them in cases of mental health issues, or any legal help that they need, or any diplomatic help that they need. Let's be there for them, but set boundaries if you're not for any of their ideologies or anything that they champion for, and you're not comfortable with it. Set boundaries and understand that. And I'll still stand on this. Sexuality is a choice. So you just give them the utmost respect that you give to your fellow counterpart. That's what, in a nutshell, I'd say. Yeah.
Wow. Kennedy, thank you very much. And that wraps up another enlightening episode of the Teapod. A huge thank you to Kennedy Nyoki for being our guest today and sharing such valuable insights. your perspective as a straight ally, as a Stratisen student. All the best in your internship. I think you're doing great things. As a friend, I really, really appreciate your support. It has been remarkable, you illuminating the importance of understanding and support within our society and this important issue of the LGBTQ plus community. It's very enlightening. Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate your engagement and hope you continue to explore these vital conversations with us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Your feedback means the world to us.
Na isikwe unatutusi hapo Abuki.
Of course. Bana, I've been your host, Ian Abuki. Of course, my girlfriend, unasikia. I think you can you can verify I'm not single. So I've been your host, Ian Abuki Mose, and it's been a pleasure sharing this space with you. Stay curious, stay compassionate, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Teapod. Thank you. Good night.
Goodbye.
And goodbye.